called the Sustainable Fuel Coalition, Driving Market Momentum for Sustainable Fuels. This coalition is hosted jointly by WWF, Shanghai Jiaotong University, University College London, and the China-UK CCUS Center. My name is Mark Lutz. I'm with WWF International, and it's my honor to moderate this side event. As the world gathers here in Berlin for COP30, one message rings clear: ambition without action is no longer enough. This is why WWF China, Shanghai Jiaotong University, the China-UK CCUS Center, and a range of partners began developing the Sustainable Fuel Coalition earlier this year, an effort to mobilize hard-to-abate sectors through collaborative action and market innovation, and to accelerate the large-scale adoption of sustainable fuels. Since WWF introduced the Sustainable Fuel Coalition joint initiative in May of this year, it's gained strong traction among policymakers, media, and industry leaders, with 10 major companies, from state-owned fuel producers and manufacturers to private sector leaders in batteries and solar PV, already signing on as early supporters. Building on this momentum, WWF and partners will formally launch the coalition at the China International Maritime Exhibition in December of this year, just next month. The coalition serves as a platform to mobilize the market, connecting companies, research institutions, policymakers, and international organizations to demonstrate how market-driven approaches can accelerate sustainable fuel adoption. A core part of this approach is activating demand-side signals. By engaging companies facing compliance pressures, the coalition helps amplify their influence across supply chains. When adopters commit to sustainable fuels, they send clear market signals that encourage both upstream producers and downstream users to follow suit. Our motivation is simple. We cannot afford to only make pledges. We must take real collective action and truly shift to implementation, as you hear a lot at the COP here. Through the coalition, we aim to build a credible, collaborative, and scalable, sustainable fuel ecosystem, one that contributes to both national transition goals and global climate ambition. This side event is part of that today, is part of that journey. It brings together policymakers, industry leaders, and experts to exchange views on the key questions shaping the future of sustainable fuels. Through this event, we hope to gather insights, foster collaboration, and push forward a shared vision for a sustainable fuel future, one that turns ambition into measurable climate impact. Thank you again for being here and for your continued support for WWF. To open today's session, we are very honored to invite Mr. Xia Yingxian, Director General of the Department of Climate Change, Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. Mr. Yingxian is also the Deputy Head of the Chinese delegation here at COP30, and we thank you very much for taking time out of the what seems to be very intense, increasingly intense negotiations to come speak at our event. Mr. Yingxian, please take the podium.
Thank you, Marco. And actually, I'd like to express my gratitude to you for your pronouncing my name. Always a very difficult Chinese name to pronounce correctly, but you are the few who can pronounce my name so correct. Thank you so much. And distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, and very glad to have this chance to come to this site event. And actually, you see, for my head of delegation, Vice Minister Li Gao, he has a very due to unforeseen arrangement, has to see the leader from the host country, so he could not make for this event. So I'm coming here on his behalf. For the theme for this side event is about the sustainable fuel. And we understand this is a very key subject and also has been very important key driver for the green transition. I'm not trying to have a very academic and also very lengthy remarks. I just want to, based on the written script, and actually this gave me only 5 minutes ago, so I do not have a chance to digest either English or Chinese. So quite a challenge for me to present all this information to you. But for the development in China, for the sustainable fuel, it has been such kind of priority, and also we have been struggling with developing the various standards for defining the sustainable fuel. And for the policy, still quite an early stage, I believe. So we are not quite prepared for this kind of challenge. But on the other hand, we have devoted a huge efforts for the development in terms of policy and for the field itself. Especially in the field of biomass energy and sustainable fuels, we have been following such kind of approach, especially with very detailed planning in light of our local circumstances to open to diverse pathways, creating such kind of development model with strong policy guidance and also counting on technology breakthroughs, and of course, with such kind of industrial synergy. We have been focusing on the efficient use of non-food biomass resources, such as crop straws, forestry waste, and municipal solid waste, and promote commercialization of biodiesel, sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, and bio-natural gas, as well as other green fuels. For green transition in the transportation sector is also a high priority for China, especially for our low carbon development. In terms of aviation, the fuel consumption per ton kilometer of Chinese civil aviation sector has dropped by 20.5% from level of 2025. The average airport energy consumption and carbon dioxide emissions per passenger have dropped 42.5% and 64.8% respectively, compared to the baseline of the average 2013 and 2015. A supply guarantee system for the SAF has been established with annual capacity reaching 600,000 tons by the end of 2024. In terms of shipping, inland vessels are switching to clean energy such as biodiesel and green methanol. Moreover, China gets 70% of global orders for green vessels. In terms of road transportation, we have mobilized logistic fleets and buses and pilot with biomass-based fuels. And while delivering our indices, China has been strengthening institutional guarantees for renewable consumption and rolled out a nationwide campaign to switch to renewables. During our next 5-year plan period, we will continue to consolidate our progress in renewable energy to strengthen further our efforts in the renewable energy development, especially for biomass industry in the resource-rich northeast and central provinces, and also try to demonstrate the use, to introduce the demonstration projects for the alternative fuels. So to maximize industrial performance through regional synergies, we actually something from written script I just want to share with you that is importance for the discussion here, from our negotiation here. We have been struggling over the last 10 days, actually, for me personally, almost 3 weeks in Berlin, quite a long time from perspective negotiation, where I was striving to reach a consensus, how to facilitate for such kind of balanced outcome for all of us. And for the negotiation, the purpose, I believe, the main purpose, we are not supposed to say who is to lose, who is to win. The purpose is to introduce such kind of policy, such kind of outcome which can guide the policy for policy development for the industrial sectors. So I believe for all of us, that's our duty, our responsibility. And for such kind of policy, it's like a lighthouse. It will be beacon for the development of the sectors, industrial, biomass, SAF. We are trying to push for transitioning to renewables, transitioning away from fossil fuels. How to make it juster, orderly, and fair. So I believe from the Dubai transitioning program for such kind of transition pathway, the 3 objectives has defined well for the pathways for the future. We understand it's not easy, but this is the journey we have to go hand in hand or together. And we have been hearing a lot. That is, how could we push away? How could we have a transition? We have been talking about all along, that is, transitioning away. How could we change such kind of narrative? A narrative trying to frame another way. How could we promote all the renewables? Try to change the tone a little bit from negative to positive. I believe this will be more than welcome. So this is something I'd like to share with you. That is, if we could try to have such kind of approach, from such kind of point of approach, from positive perspective, and try to unite all of us, try to see what we can do together. It's not for you to lose, but for you to win. So I believe this can help all of us to find a way. I thank you for this for invitation once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director General, for those remarks, and thank you for all of the efforts. I know China is doing huge things for renewable fuels on many fronts, so, and also a very constructive force in the negotiations here, so thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Manuel Pulgar Vidal. He's WWF's global lead for climate and energy, the former Minister of Environment from Peru, and the president of COP20, and also my boss, I must say. Let's see if they have anything else here. Yeah, Manuel has extensive experience in global climate policy and energy transition. Today, he'll share insights on the urgent need to scale up sustainable fuels, especially in hard-to-abate sectors, and how regulatory frameworks can accelerate the path towards a low-carbon future. Join me in welcoming Manuel Pulgar Vidal.
Thank you, Mark. Mark didn't pronounce my last name as well, yours, Director General. So, Mr. Director General, welcome. Welcome to the Panda Hub, to the audience. And let me start by sharing with you some reflections. When we adopted the Paris Agreement in 2015, we defined limits, the 1.5, objective, mitigation and adaptation, and enablers. And soon after that, we defined well transitions, because by defining transitions, we knew that that would be the only way to give a pathway for changing our traditional ways of working to something that could reduce dramatically the emissions that are causing climate change. And when we did that, strongly based on science, we identified the most important one, the energy transition. And when we think about energy transition, it has different approaches, different tasks that we have to address. Director General has already mentioned one of those, transitioning away from fossil fuels, something that it has been already agreed in the UAE consensus document, the global stocktake, and that in this COP it's becoming so important because of this need to define a roadmap with more clarity on what to do and how fast it must done. But as Director General mentioned, we have to do that transition in an orderly way and in a fairly way. So it is to transitioning away from fossil fuels, to deploying non-conventional renewable energy, tripling it, to doubling energy efficiency, and even to work on just transition. But when we thought of those transitions, we also identified the hard-to-abate sectors. And we knew since the beginning that it would be probably more difficult when it was related to aviation, maritime, steel, and cement, no? Because we knew how much energy those sectors demand and how much technology it was not ready at that time to move more quickly into that energy transition. But fortunately, things are happening well. When we see how much the maritime sector is evolving by using new technology that it is based in alternative and sustainable use of fuels, it's amazing. We never expected how quick that transition could happen. And now what we can see, or what we do have, and we can see, it is ammonia, methanol, ethanol, and some other sources of energy that are moving those huge vessels that are part of the maritime sector. And why I am referring to that? Because there is something that we have to always remind. The only way to move these transitions, it is first with research and innovation. And that is something that China is strongly working on. It's costly, takes time, but we do need to bet that by promoting research, we will be more able to innovate and to know what it could be that source of energy that could help us to transitioning away from the fossil fuels. Because we have to have alternative sources of energy. And it is not simple. Now there is kind of competition in between who should champion the transition on energy as a sustainable fuel. On those three that I've already mentioned, it should be the ammonia, it should be the ethanol, the methanol, and all of those things must be sorted, and I will refer to that later. So innovation and research, it is key. Second element, the economy. The transition means that we have to walk towards a new era in which we must be more competitive. Competitiveness is for me something so important. Climate change, it is an economic challenge in which what we are looking at is to promote more competitiveness in a more efficient way. It is not to be less competitive, it is to be competitive. It is to move our economies into being well developed. If we don't understand that, we will be by the half of the century well behind in the level of development. But when we understand that this is an economic debate, we will move our actions towards sustainable fuels and some other kind of technology as China it is currently developing with photovoltaic, with wind, among hydrogen, among many other sources of energy. So the economy, it is for me something so important. Third, it is partnership. We don't need to work public side, private side, civil society side, all together. This is a debate in which to have partnership with the operators, but also with the who is developing this new technology. It is key. So that is why we are welcoming the idea of a sustainable fuels coalition, because by working in a partnering way, we can be more effective. This COP, it has been called a Mushirao. And the Mushirao means the collective work together toward fulfilling collective, already agreed collective objectives. That is the idea of the Mushirao. So to have this kind of coalition means that we are using the Mushirao as a way to trigger more effectiveness and to go even far in our action. So that for me it is so important. But we do need to have mechanisms that can help us to continue moving our actions into the right direction. And when Mark introduced me, he referred to the importance of having rules and regulations. Because it is by having regulations that we will send the correct signal on where to go. It is by having regulation that we will be more able to standardize what we are trying to push. It is by giving that level of clarity that the economic actors will be even more able to develop new technologies and to help us more to move this process forward. Heavy rain is coming, so I will put the mic even more closer. So let me finish by saying, let's work together, let's continue having this innovative technology, sustainable fuels, as a way to continue pushing the transitioning away from fossil fuels and the energy transitions to achieve our objectives. Let's work together. Thank you to China, thank you to the Director General, and congratulations for all that progress that you are showing for this important topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manuel. And it's really wonderful to see here in Berlin the growing, I think, a consensus around the need to move forward on transitioning away from fossil fuel. And it's good to hear that China's willingness, interest in contributing to this, and so much interest from most parties, I think, here. Next, we're going to hear a video message from Professor Huang Zhen of Shanghai. I don't know if I'm doing so well on that name, from Shanghai Jiaotong University. Zhen Huang is a leading figure in China's sustainable fuel and green transport research and an important partner in this sustainable fuels coalition. As one of the country's most influential experts in sustainable fuels, Professor Huang has played a pivotal role in advancing innovation, shaping national dialogue, and guiding the transition to low-carbon transport. Now let's hear his remarks titled, Renewable Synthetic Fuels Drive the Development of Green Transport.
尊敬的各位领导、各位嘉宾，大家好。我今天的报告题目是能源绿色转型下的绿色燃料发展。2020年9月20日，我们国家习主席呢，在75届联合国大会上宣布了我们国家3060碳达峰、碳中和的目标。5年过去了，我们可以看到我们国家新能源得到了快速的发展。我们的可再生能源的装机从2020年的5.3亿千瓦，已经增加到现在的16.8亿千瓦。同时呢，我们最近1-2年也已经建立了好几个里程碑。2024年，我们风光装机呢是首次超过了煤电装机。在去年的7月呢，我们还提前了6年半，达到了我们2030年的风光装机的目标。在今年的3月，我们的风光装机又首次超过了火电装机。我们国家的可再生能源的装机呢，也是从2020年的9.34亿千瓦，已经增加到现在的21.59亿千瓦。我们国家的非化石能源的发电量已经占到了总发电量的40%。在今年的9月24日，我们国家习主席又一次向世界宣布了我们国家新一轮的自主贡献。到2035年，我们国家的风光的发电装机将会达到36亿千瓦。随着我们国家风光装机的快速发展，能源的绿色转型为我们绿色燃料发展也提供了强有力的支撑。我们可以看到，在未来 电力需求的低谷，和我们风光大发的时候将会产生大量的过剩的电力。我们将利用那些过剩的电力来制取绿色燃料，它既是一种新型的储能方式，又可以实现我们能源的燃料的脱碳。最终呢，我们可以实现燃料的大规模的使用和我们的广域的共享。最近几年我们可以看到，在中国绿色燃料发展非常快啊。据我们了解，现在已经签约的备案的绿色甲醇的项目已经达到了150多个，绿烟的项目将近100余个，规划当中的甲醇的产量达到了5000多万吨，绿烟的产能也达到了2000多万吨。特别是今年在内蒙古、在吉林的洮南，包括呢在吉林的松原，我们一系列项目，包括绿烟的项目、绿甲醇的项目，包括氢鹌醇的项目，都已经正式投产。在上海交通大学，我们也建成了国际首个光伏驱动的二氧化碳和水供电解耦合匪托工艺来做绿色燃料的一个系统。这就是我们看到的这个我们正在做的示范，也为未来的我们动力装备的深度脱碳提供了全新的解决方案。绿色燃料呢，在中国可以说第一个应用市场应该是在航运啊。我们看到从国际上来说，现在绿甲醇的船舶的订单啊，到了2025年已经达到了500多艘啊。同时我们也看到，在中国啊，包括我们的中船动力、中远海运啊，分别建成了我们现在目前最大的双燃料的甲醇的主机。同时呢，我们1.6万箱的这个就是大的集装箱也已经正式交付使用。在中国，我们也建立了氨发动机的创新联合体，也建成了国内首个大功率的氨发动机的研究的平台。同时，我们也开发了氨燃料的发动机。那么这个是我们可以看到是中远海运啊宣布了研发了第一艘的氨动力的拖轮。同时我们看到比利时航运向中企订购的世界上第一艘的氨动力的集装箱船，预计也在将明年投入使用。因此我们可以看到，作为绿色燃料发展的展望，中国有非常丰富的碳源，包括生物质资源和工业的二氧化碳的资源。同时我们国家风光可再生能源的利用规模又高居世界首位，所以我相信中国将会成为全球绿色燃料的主要产地和主要供应国之一啊。好，谢谢大家。
Okay, we thank Professor Wang Zhen for that presentation. Some important numbers and information there about developments of alternative fuels in China is truly impressive. China is definitely a leader in the world in this. So next, I'm pleased to introduce Lei Hongpen, who's the chief of UNEP's climate mitigation branch, and also, I must say, a former Panda, a former WF colleague. Lei leads UNEP's global efforts on emissions reductions and will share insights on innovation and cost reduction in sustainable fuels, highlighting how technology and market solutions can scale their adoption worldwide. Please welcome Lei Hongpen.
Thank you very much, Mark. I mean, when you look at the Panda, you could understand why, for me, one day working in WF, then you always have Panda in your heart. That's, I feel like coming back home. Really nice to be here. Before I start my speech, I want to echo DG Mr. Xia just said. I think two things in my mind. One, what exactly we believe. I think many people believe green is the future. There's no future other than green. So that's exactly the story I witnessed last year when I was in Shanghai. I see from the mayor, from think tanks, from industry leaders, from banks, from academics, all are working together to build Shanghai be the global shipping center, including, of course, sustainable fuel. Because people believe that's where you have your job, have your income, have your competitiveness. That's the future business you will make money out of the green very soon. So secondly, with that belief, how we do that? It's really to, as Mr. Xia mentioned, it's race to the top. Can we do better? That's a good competition to say who can produce better, lower cost green fuel for not only for your own city, but also for many other people in the world. So I think that's something really inspiring. Let me say a few words on this very important topic. So I also want to firstly thank WWF, Shanghai Jiao Tong University, UCL, and China UK CCUS Center for convening us for this very important topic. Sustainable fuels like ammonia, hydrogen, and other forms of green fuel carry important decarbonization potential for hard-to-abate sectors of shipping and aviation. So these sectors will continue to need liquid fuels in the longer term. This is where sustainable fuels come in, with their high energy intensity, low carbon footprint, and the ability to store intermittent renewable energy. But two key challenges remain. Firstly, sustainable fuels are very expensive to produce and consume. The green premium is at more than 200 euro per ton of CO2 abatement cost for sustainable aviation fuels, more than 100 euros for green methanol in the shipping industry. Secondly, technological uncertainties remain. Many technical processes in sustainable fuel production not yet fully mature, such as biomass gasification and the Fischer-Tropsch process in producing sustainable aviation fuels. It is critical that we continue to act on a suite of measures towards a more sustainable transportation sector. Firstly, we must electrify what we can. For example, we can further develop battery technology for short-distance aviation. If flights up to 500 kilometers can use electric planes in the future, this would be about a quarter of all flights. Don't forget to continue to focus on making fossil fuels and ICE vehicles cleaner and more efficient as we switch to zero emissions transport. UNEP's experience shows that the adaptation of better fuel and vehicles quality standards for fossil fuels is needed hand in hand with efforts to switch to electric mobilities. Much like the full-scale adoption of sustainable fuels, it will take several decades for the world to have shifted to electric mobilities. So we still should work to minimize emissions from existing ICE fleet. And we should progress towards cost-competitive and reliable sustainable non-fossil fuels for hard-to-abate sectors like aviation and maritime. Learning lessons from solar, wind, and battery energy storage, we know that rapid cost reduction requires research and development, demonstration and deployment of innovative technologies matched with dedicated financial support. Sustainable Fuel Coalition is a very good example to really kickstart the market innovation and the policy coordination which is needed to ultimately help build a scalable, credible market for sustainable fuels. We at UNEP look forward to continue to work with all the partners, the member states, and all stakeholders to build a clean and a secure energy system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lei Hongpeng, and thank you for all of the speakers who have joined us here today. We've heard a range of perspectives on the potential of sustainable fuels to drive decarbonization in hard-to-abate sectors, from policy frameworks, market mechanisms to technology innovation and cost reduction. Now we're going to move to the roundtable discussion. The session will be moderated by Professor Liang Shi from Shanghai Jiao Tong University and University College London. Professor Liang Shi is one of the initiators of the Sustainable Fuel Coalition. I will now turn it over to him to introduce the panelists.
Hi, dear ladies and gentlemen, and very warm welcome to the roundtable section. So today we have 5 very distinguished experts joining our panel discussion. We will introduce these guests later on, and including Mark, Kemal, Gasto, Roger, and Alice. So let's welcome you all on the panel. So thanks for participation. We have, let me introduce the panelists on this panel. I think you all know Mark Lutis, just chaired the section earlier from WWF. And Kemal Bakjan, Technical Officer, International Marine Organization, IMO. So I guess you all look forward to the IMO's feedbacks on the recent voting. And Roger Lima, Managing Director of Agroicom. And Gustavo Wanda, Business Assurance Sustainability Certification Advisory Academic, responsible for business development as a business development manager. And we also have Alice Hall, Chief Youth Officer of Global Alliance of University on Climate, and a shareholder of Portline Bulk International. Yeah. So my first question I would like to ask Kemal. So in light of current policy uncertainty from recent IMO decision, I believe everyone will be very interesting. So what's your view on sustaining the momentum in scaling up the production of clean and renewable marine fuel, and by attracting investment in port and the bunkering infrastructure?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting the IMO to attend this important session. I was really inspired also by the opening remarks by the previous speakers, and I really would like to echo the importance of regulations to provide clarity and really push a demand signal in order for these sustainable fuels to be upscaled and available globally. When it comes to the decision to adjourn the adoption of the IMO Net Zero framework, which took place a few weeks ago, let me first say that I think it's not necessarily representative of the level of support to the decarbonization of shipping and to the decarbonization agenda at the IMO. Really, I would like to reiterate the commitment of IMO member states to achieve net zero by around 2050 international shipping, as agreed already in the 2023 IMO greenhouse gas strategy. This commitment is still there, the momentum is still there. IMO member states are working hard on making sure that we forge better consensus, that we clarify a number of technical aspects of this framework, including the life cycle assessment, including safety requirements, the training of seafarers, etc., etc. And the consideration of the net zero framework will continue next year. And in parallel, it's so important to also highlight that it's not only the governments and the member states. The transition is already happening, and we've heard that already, and we can see that lots of efforts are already taking place in the industry. I think China is a wonderful example of how much efforts are put into on the shipbuilding side, on the seafarers training side, on technology. We cannot stop this transition. We need actually to accelerate and to provide clearer signals. And I think the reality doesn't change. for a sector that is highly competitive like international shipping, we need regulatory signal. We need global rules, and that's IMO's mission. It will remain IMO's mission, and will continue to provide this, this regulatory framework.
Thanks, Kyle. And it's very interesting reply. Maybe we'll further discuss later on. And my next question is to Mark. From WWF's perspective, why is it important to accelerate the adoption of sustainable fuels now? And what key principle guides WWF's work on in this area? Some of my colleagues calculated the abatement cost of sustainable fuel are actually quite high.
So clearly, we have to move ahead more quickly with global efforts to decarbonize, transition to beyond fossil fuels, away from fossil fuels, and get emissions down. We're going far too slow on almost all fronts now. The latest NDC analysis showed that with the current NDCs we have, we're probably going to be 12% below 2019 levels of global emissions by 2035, when we need to be 60% below. So clearly we need to move ahead, and there's some key sectors like shipping and aviation that are not that are international and not directly under the control of any national government. So these are areas where we can get some progress, and we're seeing progress, especially in the shipping area, and alternative fuels, sustainable fuels are extremely important for this. In shipping, there was, I think, a surprising level of agreement in 2023 on the net zero strategy, the greenhouse gas strategy adopted by the IMO, which had a target of getting to zero by 2050, to get into net zero emissions by 2050. That was unanimously agreed. The framework, the net zero framework, was agreed in April by the vast majority of parties, at the IMO. And I think, as Camille said, there's everything to play for next year. It's only adjourned. We can still get it next year. And fuels, sustainable fuels, are probably the most important element in transitioning the shipping sector to net zero. There are other elements as well. Efficiency, of course, is going to be important. Wind assist, alternative technologies based on wind will also be important. But the real battle is in fuels. And there's a lot of uncertainty now in the sector about what fuels are going to win, where fuel producers, investors should put their resources right now. We need this regulatory clarity to drive progress forward. And for WWF, when we're talking about alternative fuels, the sustainability of those fuels is extremely important. It's possible, for example, with biofuels, that some biofuels, depending on the source, the technologies, that sort of thing, can actually be worse than fossil fuels. We think it is possible to have sustainable biofuels, including in Brazil, that could be a major producer of biofuels, but we need regulations, we need actions to decarbonize supply chains of all commodities, not just fuels, but all commodities. And beyond biofuels, we need to shift in the medium and long term towards e-fuels that are scalable to the scale that this sector, that the shipping sector and the aviation sector and other sectors will require. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark, for sharing why this is important, and also it's important to tackle the source of biofuel to make sure the biomass is from sustainable sources. So building on Mark's comments, I would like to ask my next question to Roger. People are all very interested on the balanced 4 times pledge advanced solution for sustainable fuel, and how can this solution be implemented by establishing common approach to key sustainability challenge, particularly in life cycle assessment, indirect land use change, and the fuel versus fuel debate.
Thanks a lot for the question and thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here. I will start saying that when parties agreed the global stocktake decision in Dubai and agreed for the first time the target to triple renewables, it opened a window of opportunities and challenges for countries as parties, but the private sector, the civil society, to engage into discussions on how to make this happen. The recent report from the International Energy Agency really present a very good momentum towards the role of sustainable fuels and the need for a basket of solutions, because there's no one single solution that will help everyone to triple and to do the energy transition way. So this report and now the pledge that Brazil proposed, I think the pledge today has 25 countries supporting. It's totally anchored in this view of we have the GST decision, the triple of renewables. We need a basket of solutions. NDCs are created from parties' needs, realities, opportunities, challenges. So every country has its low-hanging fruits that they can use, at least in the near term, to really engage and foster the adoption of renewables. And of course, we have ammonia, we have hydrogen, we have groundbreaking technologies that will be there, but we cannot wait 10 years, 20 years to have those technologies deployed and easily accessible. So having said that, I think, and in the case of Brazil, biofuels are extremely important at our energy matrix. Actually, biofuels from agriculture, and I mean by that ethanol from sugarcane, ethanol from corn, and relies from 26% of our energy matrix, that is 50% renewable. And of course, we need to assure sustainability. So no deforestation, how to tackle land use concerns, deforestation, and included indirect land use changes. How to capture the carbon intensity of different biofuels, because ultimately we are searching solutions that will deliver carbon intensity values that makes much more sense to use those solutions instead of fossil. Otherwise, we will continue with fossil. So carbon intensity are at the center of any agenda related to renewables, and approaches towards doing calculations to carbon intensity are extremely relevant, not harmonized from an international perspective, but then regulations, as Camille mentioned, at IMO, all the Corsia agenda as well, towards creating at least common ground on how to do life cycle analysis to get to carbon intensity values are extremely relevant, because again, we need low carbon solutions at the table. And so given that, and hopefully the pledge that is being proposed and will be managed and worked through the Clean Energy Ministerial, as it was presented, I think 2 days ago. I forgot the date and what day is today, because I'm here since the beginning. But thanks, was on Friday. So the action agenda, using Clean Energy Ministerial as a lever to work with parties, with those actors that are engaged into the pledge, to really deploy and try to push forward the adoption of those solutions. In my view, I think it's extremely important because parties are parties to the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. But as Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago, president of COP30, says, we need the private sector and civil society and people to act and to support, not just countries, because otherwise we will end up having thousands of regulations, and regulations are supported to regulate our society and the different sectors, and creating a clear sign that the quadruple now with the pledge, it's the goal. So let's move towards this, for sure taking care of sustainability criteria, because otherwise there's no sense to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. And building on your question and the earlier comments, so we see uncertainties in the compliance market, whether the demand from sustainable fuel from mid-signal will be substantial. But apart from the demand from the compliance policy, I have a next question to Alice. Whether do you see a voluntary market for consuming sustainable fuel is promising, as we can see from the carbon market, there's substantial demand from voluntary market, whether there is the same story can happen in sustainable fuel.
Yeah, so from what I observe, I think the voluntary market for sustainable fuels well, especially in shipping, is growing, but it is still far from the scale that is needed for a real transition. I think unlike aviation, where end users directly feel that, oh, I picked the sustainable choice, so then shipping emissions are almost invisible to consumers, because most people don't think that, oh, my Amazon order requires the shipping part that will take a few days behind. So, and also they won't know that what type of fuel is actually being used, compared to that it's just, oh, sustainable fuel, or it's a specific type of fuel. So I think while a few multinational brands with strong ESG commitments are willing to pilot low carbon shipping, voluntary demand alone will not create the scale required. But the premium for sustainable fuel is still very high. So without a clear value position, ship owners hesitate to retrofit engines, and ports hesitate to invest in bunkering the infrastructure. And manufacturers won't scale production unless they see that all the stable orders, everyone is ready. So that's why I think policy and sector-wide standards are very essential. For example, classifications like the DNV have already issued classes rules for green methanol, ammonia, and hydrogen vessels that develop lifestyle emissions, tools, and define retrofit pathways. But these frameworks help build confidence, but they still need the demand signals to turn the guidance into investment. So I think voluntary demand can complement the transition, but it cannot lead it. So without aligned policy standards and coordinated industry actions, the uptake of sustainable fuels in shipping will remain limited. So I think we also need to look into, like, all the people should not wait, like stakeholders, ship owners, fuel providers, port investors or port owners. They should all do a forward step and invest early on, invest in the early stage, especially for, I think, the supply side, especially for the sustainable fuel providers. They should create some sort of a network, or such as joining the coalition, to actually look into how should the building process be, how does the technology collaborate with these machines, how do we prevent from buying an extra engine, can the upcoming new build boats have all the existing plugs of different sustainable fuels with normal fuels, and how can the existing fuels engine can decrease in price, and also building all these possible supplies all over the world with the supply chain. Otherwise, I think I have a boat with it, very nice, but without the supply chain, that's also a barrier. So I think we need to have all these components in order to push the ship owners getting newer, better, sustainable boats, and to use sustainable fuels.
Yeah, so thanks, Alice, for a very clear and comprehensive message. So my final question, perhaps is one of the most important questions, is to Gustavo, based on SGS SAF fuel production verification practice. What are your suggestions in improving sustainable fuel standard and the verification process?
Okay. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me and for the invitation of SGS to this panel. And we can talk about the verification process, and we can talk about the improvement of the verification process in many points. But I will highlight two of these points that we consider, based in our experience, that they are the most important points. The first one is about the sustainability criteria. We know that we have many different schemes and different rules. They apply slight different rules for the sustainability criteria between them. And we can use, for example, the GAG accounting. We can use the CO2 allocation. We can talk about the feedstock definitions and waste categories, and so on. So if we can harmonize at this point these elements, we can reduce time and cost of the verification. And obviously, it will bring a better price to the final product for the producers, and also will reduce the amount of material, amount of documents that they have to manage. The second point is about the traceability. We know that we have linked to the SAF certification, we have different feedstock chain of custody. So in Brazil, particularly, we have a low rate, of eligibility of the feedstock material because we do not have a good process of traceability. So it will cause, in the end point, less material certified and increase price of the product because we do not have the consistency of the material that will be verified in the audit. So the third point that I want to bring to this discussion is the possibility to use the AI technology. Yes, SGS is still testing some AI tools to reduce the time and cost of the audits. We can use AIs to verify the mass balance, to check the mass balance. We can use the AI tools to verify the calculation of GHG emission. And all of these points can reduce the amount of documents that the auditor should see in the process. So obviously, it will conduct the process to a low-cost process and bring more price to the final product.
So thanks, Gustavo, to raise the AI, and thanks for all the speakers. Because we have a second round of questions, but I don't think we have time today. So do subscribe to WWF Shanghai Jiaotong's future event on sustainable fuel if you want to know the answer for the second round of questions. And thank you very much for the participation, and hope we'll work together to drive the progress for this topic. Thank you.